I'd say too, the microphone is mainly to help the audio for our video. So, I mean, we could probably do without it for y'all to hear, but we're going to have to use it so the audio will pick it up.
So we'll do the American flag first and then the text vote.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, thank you. I want to welcome anybody. Is anybody here? This is our first meeting. We want to recognize all our new members. We'll do that later on, but personally, I want to thank you for being here. Our speaker today is Senator Brian Hughes, who before was our representative, but was elected this last spring to be our spring before last to our senator. I think he just finished his first session as senator. And I'm sure he has a lot of interesting things to say to us. You know, it seems like I didn't realize when I retired that every 2 years we're going to face a battle to hold on to our pensions and our benefits. And a lot of you know, lost big time health care wise. I know your premiums went up. Mine did. Not as bad as some of you also did. But anyway, we barely got our health care on the special session agenda. That was disappointing. But at least we got something. And I'm sure Senator Hughes helped us in that direction. Anyway, as I've told you, we have to get out and vote. That's something the teachers have not been doing. I'm going to keep hammering on that. And I hope all of you went and voted on the constitutional amendments of that. But anyway, there are things that happen or don't happen. Like I still don't understand why we don't get a 13th check. We can't get a 13th check. That's come up. We can't get a cost of living raise. I've never had one. Some of y'all have gone longer than I have. But it seemed like it would be easier to get a 13th check, but that's never happened either. Anyway, we appreciate Senator Hughes taking time to come visit with us and share this information. And I think we already know him because he's been speaking to us ever since I've been part of this organization. I know he was in education. The first time I met him was over in Marshall. He came over to visit our early childhood program over there. And so rather than spend much more time introducing him, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to him and let him talk to you, and then we'll have some questions over there.
Thanks, like I said. Brian Hughes is my name. Many of us have met before, and I want to start out with some great news. I know this will encourage you, okay? The legislature is not in session. We can enjoy the afternoon a little bit more. You know, our founders wisely gave us, as you will, this part-time legislature, right? So you send someone down there for that term, that 140 days, almost 5 months every other year. And of course, even during that session, we're at home on the weekends, right? But then when the session is over, everybody has to leave Austin and go back to their old job and has to face people at church and at football games and at Walmart, and has to give account for what happened or didn't happen. And also we have to live under the laws we made. You know, Congress for years famously would literally exempt themselves from all the stuff they put on us. And so, of course, that's not what Congressman Gomer doesn't do that. We're thankful for him, but we know that over time we've seen. Did I walk past? Did you just sit down? How did I miss you? Thank you. We used to see you right here. We know that this part-time legislature, citizen legislature, makes sense, right? Congress used to be that way. Every state legislature was that way, but over the years, as the government's grown and gotten bigger, and it seems like sometimes folks go off to the Capitol, state or federal, and they become part of that system and not home. Now, that's not the case with our congressman, but it does happen. So this is a good system overall. It's not perfect, but we're thankful for it. Y'all know it well. You've taught it and you've lived it, and I can look around the room and I can thank people I've known for a long time who've helped us, who've encouraged us, and continue to. And so the good news is, as bad as it is, it's better than anything else, and it gets better. And Dr., you're so right, and that in all that matters. What do they say about politics? It's a game that is won by people that show up, right? And you guys do, you do it. The good news is that most members of the legislature are with us, they're sympathetic, they want to help, and even if they didn't, they know that you guys vote, so that's good. So you're loved and feared. It's good to have both. You really do. So just briefly, as far as another thing from this session, I'm going to mention one matter to you that I get a lot of questions about. It's not an education issue per se. It affects all of us as Texans. And then I want to visit about TRS and TRS Care and get some feedback from you guys. But what I want to talk to you about, if you don't mind, in the time we have, pardon me, is sanctuary cities. Everybody know what a sanctuary city is? I don't want to insult your intelligence. This is a pretty sophisticated group. Y'all stay up on stuff, but that's kind of evolved over time. A sanctuary city, when I first got involved in politics, sanctuary city, that was a Chicago, maybe a Dallas or a Houston. They would say, and it used to mean if we arrest you or we pull you over to the police, we're not going to inquire about your immigration status. If you're here illegally, we don't want to know. We're not worried about that. And some of us were concerned about that, because if someone's here illegally, that needs to be dealt with, right? So that's what a sanctuary city used to be. They're just not going to ask about someone's immigration status. But then it got worse. It got even worse. It got more aggressive. And here's what sanctuary cities have become. Now, I'll use the example of Austin. We love Austin. It's so much history there. It's our capital. I will say that the folks who are running Austin now have a little different worldview than most of us in this part of the state. And they're dear folks. They just don't see things the way we see them. And so, for example, here's how bad sanctuary cities have become. And so, let's just say in Austin they arrest Vladimir. If there's any Vladimirs here, I apologize. I don't want to offend anybody. I thought that was a safe name to use. They arrest Vladimir, and they arrest him for some crime, and they bring him in, and they put him in the computer, and a detainer pops up on the screen. Now, a detainer, that's from Immigration's Customs Enforcement, ICE, right? When they have someone here illegally who's wanted for crimes, they put a detainer. So let's say Travis County arrests Vladimir, and they find out that there's a detainer on him. And a detainer is the Fed saying, don't let that guy go. We want him. He's wanted. In many cases, he's wanted for a violent crime in another jurisdiction. So it seems logical if you have the guy in custody and you've been told he's wanted for a violent crime, you're going to turn him over, right? I think that's what you would think we ought to do. But in a sanctuary city or a sanctuary county, that's not what they do. Their agenda about illegal immigration is more important than keeping people safe. And so even though there's an ICE detainer, even though they know this person is wanted for a violent crime, they turn him loose. Now, in Travis County, the sheriff actually campaigned on that and was elected. She said that's what she was going to do. They still voted for her. By the way, I don't vote in Travis County. I voted in East Texas. This is home. This is my home. But there was so much public pressure that in the case of Travis County, the sheriff came back and said, okay, I'll tell you what, if we arrest someone and there's an ICE detainer and they're wanted for a very violent crime, those are her words, a very violent crime, then we'll hold them. And so she was pressed on that. She said, well, if they're wanted for like first-degree murder, then we'll turn them over. But if it's just regular murder, we're going to go ahead and turn them loose. I mean, I wish I was making this up. Does that bother you guys? Does that concern you? It bothers me. It's not happening here. Sheriff Smith, our police chief, our law enforcement folks here, they equally apply the law to everyone. They're not doing that. But I think we know that if a violent criminal's turned loose in Dallas or Houston or Austin, they don't necessarily stay there, right? They can find their way here. So anyway, after a number of attempts, we get sanctuary cities to the Senate, not the House, or the House and not the Senate. I don't know what that's like. Finally, we did pass a bill that's the strongest sanctuary cities bill in the country. And it says this: if you're a law enforcement leader, a sheriff, a police chief, you're the head of the department, and it's your policy to turn these people loose, not to honor these detainers, we're going to do three things. We're going to hold you civilly liable for the damage those people do when they get loose. We're going to hold you criminally liable, and we can remove you from office. Is that okay with you guys if we do that? It makes sense to me. It was what we were doing. It really was. And so, again, not an issue for us around here. As Texans, it's a concern for all of us. It took a while to get it done, but that is the law. Governor Abbott pushed that, helped us with that really big. And you probably knew that, but there's so much going on, and I wanted to make sure I got that, because a lot of folks ask us about that. Now, pardon me, with regard to TRS, as you know, it seems like every couple of years, or even more often, we hear somebody talking about wanting to change it, right, from a defined benefit plan to a defined contribution plan. Y'all have heard this before, and some of us have corresponded about it. Now, that's been going on for a while. They always talk about it, and sometimes they'll file a bill. It never goes anywhere. But again, you're wise to be vigilant. I'm with you. It needs to remain a defined benefit plan. That it works, it's sound. And you know the problem we're facing around the country. You look up at Detroit and cities like that, Chicago, and some of the states up north. They've been so irresponsible. I hate to say it, but it's just the numbers. They've been so irresponsible with their public pensions that they're completely upside down. They're bankrupt. And so there's been a real cry for reform of those pensions. And then sometimes we get caught up in that. But as you know, TRS is sound, it's secure. Unlike Social Security, it really has money in it. It really is a trust fund. It's guaranteed. And our founders wisely did that. So it's safe. We have good people managing it. And so the fund is secure. And even this session, and again, some well-intended people are pushing this defined contribution thing. Let me just give you a little insight into that. In the Senate, I'm on the State Affairs Committee, and that's the committee where the pension matters come. In fact, I'm tickled to be vice chair of that committee. And so there were two bills filed that I'm aware of. And some of y'all got emails about these that had to do with the defined benefit versus defined contribution. Dr. Behrman and I talked about this during the session. I know one bill said we're going to have the teacher retirement system study going to a defined contribution versus defined benefit. That's been studied quite a bit. We pretty well know what the numbers are on that. So that was that bill filed, and there was another bill filed that said we're going to ask TRS to give people the option of having a defined benefit plan or a defined contribution plan. As if people would choose a defined contribution plan if they were given the choice anyway. So those two bills, again, well-intentioned people that have reasons for pushing those bills. Those two bills were filed. They were sent to the State Affairs Committee. And the bills never even got a hearing, all right? Never even got a hearing, much less a vote or a vote on the floor. So the good news is, as far as defined contribution, defined benefit, keep doing what you're doing. Please let us hear from you, but I'm with you. We're fine. There's no real danger of that. So I don't want to say don't be concerned, because we always have to be on guard, don't we? But that's not happening. The governor appointed someone to the Pension Review Board a year or so back, and the guy he appointed is real big on defined contribution plan. So we got a little nervous. But just to be clear, you'll know this, the Pension Review Board does not have any authority over policy. The legislature passes the bills. Pension Review Board is supposed to oversee things, and it does give you a platform to talk about issues. So if it's raising a profile, I'll be talking about this. But please know that on the Pension Review Board, even if it was filled with people who were for that change, they can't do it. It's got to come through the legislature. And the legislature works for you. And so we're in good shape on defined benefit, defined contribution. But I know we got to be vigilant. I want to encourage you as far as that goes. Now, we're talking about the annuity increase. I'm new to the Senate. Dr. Waxman said I was in the House for a few terms. And during the time I've been in the House, we have passed 3 13th checks. Only one of those made it through the Senate. That's been some years ago. And again, I wasn't in the Senate then. Senator Eltoff is for us. He's with us. For some reason, historically, in the past, in the Senate, it's been hard to get some of this done. So there's just been one 13th check in the last several years. Of course, the last annuity increase was in 2013, and it caught those pre-2004 retirees. I know folks who've retired since then have not seen an annuity increase. And one thing that we did try to do, because there wasn't the money for an annuity increase, we thought we can at least try to keep health care premiums down. And so, again, I know it's been a tough year for health care premiums, but you'll recall, if you go back all the way back to 2005, that TRS care premium has been frozen. No one, I mean, again, we owe you that, and we want to provide it. The people of Texas, whoever works for you, we want to provide it, want to keep that promise. Nobody's premiums have been frozen since 2005. But we thought we had to do something because there wasn't money for an annuity increase. At the very least, we would keep those premiums frozen. So we did. And then last session, 2015, we were looking for a big shortfall in TRS care. We put about $1 billion in it. And really, I tell you, just to be honest, in hindsight, what we should have done then, and we, of course, we worked with TRTA every step of the way. Dr. Behrman and I, well, actually, many of us here talked about this. In 2015, we probably, when we had that extra money, we probably should have made some changes then. But again, nobody, okay, what politician wants to vote and make people's costs go up? I mean, nobody wants to do that. I mean, obviously, politicians like to be liked and like to get reelected. So this was not something to take lightly. So in 2015, we put more money in to keep it like it was, but the problem just grew. So finally in 2017, with several $100 million in new money, these changes came, or they were put in place. And I know you guys have followed this. I don't want to insult your intelligence, but I want to walk through the process with you. And so, as you know, for the retiree themselves, if you're a Medicare eligible retiree, the changes there are changes, but not near as significant as they are for pre-65 retirees or for our dependents, our spouse, even if we're Medicare eligible. I know some of those are significant. And so we got through the regular session and put the money we had into TRS care. And as you know, some of those changes we're going to have the deductibles really would have been just out of reach, the deductibles and the premiums. And so again, like I said, like you said, the governor agreed to put it on the special session call, right? And so we came back in a special session and found about $212 million in new money. I'm sorry to be so didactic. You know these numbers, but about $212 million. And it took those increased deductibles and cut them in half and also reduced the premiums. But still, I know it's a big adjustment. And you know that everyone is dealing with increased health care costs, and we hope that the Congress will do something about Obamacare as they promised to do. That would help everyone. In the meantime, we're still looking for more money to put into TRS care, and we want to make sure the money we have is being put in the best place. I've been talking to local experts and also people at the state level. If there's a way we can take that money we're spending and give you guys more flexibility, we try to put the money where it will be of most good. We work with, y'all know Tim Lee, I know he's spoken here before. When you guys hired Tim Lee to run the Texas Retired Teachers Association, of course he came from Illinois, so good for him and good for us. But he's got great credibility with the legislature. He's got good relationships. People trust him. And he's fighting for you. He's also fighting for us in Washington to deal with that horrible government pension offset, so-called windfall elimination provision. So the point is, we're not done yet on TRS care, but with the special session, the blow was softened a little bit. And I'm not trying to be glib about it. This is real money. I know this is real for people in this room. So we're looking for more money, and we're trying to be smart about putting money in the best possible place. Now, Social Security. I was elected in 2002, and until I got to the legislature, I had no idea how retired teachers were treated by Social Security. Of course, most of y'all weren't retired then either, but I got a call from this retired teacher up in Hawkins. I told you about this. I remember she called me and she told me how she couldn't get her husband's Social Security survivor benefits. I thought, well, that can't be right. And of course, it's not right, it's not moral, but that's what the law is. I was shocked. We began to research it, and of course, y'all know there are 2 federal provisions that apply only to Texas and a handful of states, 13 states, I think. The government pension offset and the windfall elimination provision. I hate that term. You're not looking for a windfall. You're looking for part of what you earn, part of what you deserve. But that's still the law in America, that you're punished on Social Security. Now, I don't have a vote on that. That's determined in Washington. But like you, we can ask our congressman. Congressman Gomer gets it. Of course, his mother taught school. He gets it. He's been fighting for us. And the problem is, since it affects only 13 states, and it's got to be passed by the U.S. Congress in Washington. If you're a U.S. Senator or a congressman from Illinois or Ohio, you don't really care about Texas, right? And so it's hard to get their attention. Now, the great news is, here's what's encouraging. Kevin Brady is a U.S. Congressman from the Houston area. and he is familiar with this issue. He was in the Texas legislature before, and he is chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, probably the most powerful committee in the U.S. House, probably one of them. And he's actually got a bill to fix the government pension offset and the windfall eliminations provision. The point is to fix Social Security for our retired teachers. And he might be able to get it passed. But since he's the chairman, they kind of got to listen to him, even if they don't care about it. So, again, I'm not going to say I'm as frustrated as you because you're the ones who are living with it. But like you, I don't have a vote on that Social Security stuff. But yet, Congressman Gomer gets it, Cruz and Cornyn get it. Most of the Texas delegation gets it. So we're optimistic something may get done about that. And again, your TRTA is working hard, and you know that. They're working on that. There's a few things I want to share, and I want to get some feedback from you guys. But let me pause for a minute. Anybody have questions or comments? If you have any corrections, let's speak privately after the event down the hall. I'm just kidding. You can correct me. I'm just joking. I want to hear from you. I need to hear from you. Many of us have spoken about this and corresponded and but tell me what you're thinking about this, or if you have questions or corrections. That's okay too. So about anything. Yes, ma'am.
What I'm considering is, what is the local hospitals and people, are they going to accept this TRS care?
Right. Great question. What about local providers? Are they going to accept it? And I can say this, I know that on the Medicare Advantage program for our 65 plus retirees, it doesn't apply to many in this room, but our 65 plus retirees, I know there's been a real work to recruit those docs, let them know this isn't just a regular Medicare Advantage program. It's better, right? It's got better benefits than the Medicare Advantage you can buy on the street. The state's backing it up. So I want to hear from you guys. But so far, I want to hear from Tim Lee and from TRS as they've been very successful in getting providers. But if somebody's had their doctors on otherwise, let us know. Part of the problem is when you call the doctor's office and they say you take Medicare Advantage, they say no. They don't know because they just think it's a regular Medicare Advantage. So if you will do this, when that happens, if you'll call me or call Tim Lee, but call me, we can help get the right information. And that's the very least I can do. Because it's been my experience that when we show these providers what this plan really is, they like it. It's a good plan. So the answer is we're cautiously optimistic. Does that make sense? That we're going to have plenty of local participation. If someone else has had different experience, you please tell us. But we can help with that. Nobody changing your doc. I know that's frustrating. Fair?
I got something to leak I want to say. I
Please.
apologize.
That's okay.
And you can respond.
All right.
I know that I've sent you some correspondence about this, but I think this group, I want to tell you about me.
Please.
And I'm sure everybody in here has their own story. I retired in 2003. I've been retired 14 years. And the difference in my paycheck, the gross amount of my paycheck, the difference between it on the day I retired, the first check I got, and the one I got at the end of October last month is $100. I've gotten a $100 raise in
14 years.
There's been 10 years ago, there was a 13th check. It was not a true 13th check. It was a cap.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
It could have been, but it was not. The others that were passed in such a way that the House leadership, and particularly the Senate leadership, knew that it was being passed in such a way it was going to be found unconstitutional. There is a very easy way to pass a 13th check. Every time you go to Austin, you can do that every year. Because the kicker about that is it would not cost the taxpayers of the state of Texas one penny to give us a 13th check, a full 13th check, every time you go to Austin. And I know that some people say, well, you know, you're taking money out of the retirement fund, which is somewhere around $130 billion at this point, and you're not putting that money, you're taking some out, and so that's going to hurt the retirement in the long run. The truth of the matter is, according to Brian Guthrie, it would take less than 4 days of interest that TRS makes to replenish every penny. Now that leaves 360 days or 61 days. They can still draw interest on the retirement. I don't really think that would hurt the teacher. It would be a great help for everybody in this room. Now, the second thing that I will talk about a little bit, well, I'm really not through. Well, yeah,
Go ahead, please.
but the second thing is about insurance. And I know that legislators, you and our Representative Schaefer, and Jack's here from his office today, representing him. But I know that the hue and cry was, we don't have the money to help you. If we had more money coming in, we could help you. Now, I want to tell you, that sounds pretty hollow. When you left Austin with more than $9 billion sitting in a coffee can on the edge of the table that could have been used to help me and everybody in this room. Now, you know, I've told you that I've gotten a $100 raise in the last 14 years. The second thing I want to tell you is, you gave us some money. You put money into our health care system. I appreciate that. Let me tell you what you left out that I don't appreciate at all. And that is that effectively, my salary, beginning in January, my income from TRS is going to be cut $4,588 next year. That's every year from now on. The legislature will never pass a bill to increase my annuity $5,000 a year. You will never go back and fix the insurance that will ever give me back $5,000 a year.
To catch that up.
Now, yeah, that's every year. That's every year. Now, I've come to some conclusions after having been down there a good many times in the last 14 years. And the conclusion that I've reached is that the majority of the people who are in the legislature, and this includes you, it includes Mr. Schaefer, and particularly the governor and the lieutenant governor, don't care about public education. Mr. Schaefer announced his re-election campaign in the paper this morning. And one of the things I read with interest about that was he was bragging about some of the things he's done in Austin, and one of them was that he has gotten a bill passed to allow school districts to have more flexibility in their hiring of career and technology people. What difference does flexibility make when you don't have the funds to employ someone? The current legislature does not care about public education, nor the teachers, nor retirees. They care more about helping private schools and charter schools than they do, and this is ridiculous. Much more with pushing public funds for private schools and charter schools than they do for public schools. They take money away from the public schools and do not restore it. The lieutenant, and as far as I can tell, after looking at everything that's gone on, particularly this last year, retirees do not have a single friend in the Senate. We don't have a single one. We don't have anybody who will stand up to the governor or lieutenant governor and say, look, let's don't cut Wayne Berryman's income $5,000 a year because we've got this $9 billion sitting here on the edge of the table. Let's help that guy a little bit. We haven't given him a raise. We haven't given him an income increase in 14 years except $100. Let's don't take $5,000 away from him on his permanent annuity. Nobody said that. they are afraid of the lieutenant governor or the governor. I don't know what the reason is, but I do know that there's nobody there. There were a few in the House. We have some friends in the House, but I cannot name a single one that we have in the Senate. And I can tell you that it upsets me about that, and I know you can tell this. And I've watched it a long time. We go with our hat in our hand every 2 years saying, please help us, please help us, please help us. We are talking to a post. Nobody is paying any attention to us. And I'm here to tell you, I'm not going to be quiet about it.
All right.
I'm going to talk to public school teachers that are currently employed by districts. I'm going to talk to retirees that the only way this will ever change is to change the majority of the people that we have in the Senate and the legislature.
All right, that's right.
And I didn't say that out of disrespect. I have a lot of respect for you. I like you. And we've had a lot of conversation. I just think that you took advantage of me by not helping me when you had the opportunity to.
No, Dr. Redmond, you know you can say anything. You know how I feel about you. You don't even apologize for speaking your mind. Those are part of the frustration that we deal with is, and it may just be the language that, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I was just telling Dr. Behrman he can say anything he wants to. We've been friends for a while, we are, and I'm thankful for him. Thank you for telling me that. One of the things we run into in the House and the Senate, and I don't think they mean to come across this way, but sometimes the suburban and the urban guys, when they talk about public education, they just use different, I don't think they're trying to be ugly, but they don't. Let us put it this way. Where we live, our public schools are the biggest employers, right? I mean, that's the biggest employer in most of the towns I represent. The vast majority of us are products of public schools. That's where children and grandchildren go. And I guess like in Houston or in the big cities, when you go to the convenience store, you don't see a banner that says we support the Benny Yellow Jackets. It's just not woven in the community like it is here. Now, that's no excuse. But I think that comes through, and sometimes these suburban guys, and I like them, and if you talk to them, they're for us. But sometimes they don't like the language they use when they talk about public schools and about public school people. But as far as the money goes in the House and the Senate, again, I'm new to the Senate. In the past, we passed 13 checks in the House and they died in the Senate. And of course, things have changed a lot. I will say, if you look at the bills, if you look at the legislation on TRS care from the regular session and from the special session, I mean, the House and Senate bills were identical as far as the money that was put in. I mean, there was really no difference. I mean, unless I'm missing something, to the dollar, the House and the Senate both had the same amount of money to put into TRS care in the regular session and the special session. But yes, there's work to do. I mean, there really is. There's a big debate about the rainy day fund every time we meet, and whether to use it for ongoing expenditures or to save it for one-time expenditures. And then, again, we don't know what it's going to cost yet, but I'll just say that what hit us in Houston, we hope that's a once-in-a-lifetime, once-in-a-century event. But we don't know how many billions that's going to cost, not just for our public schools, but for other infrastructure as well. So that rainy day fund, we have a big fight every session on what to do with that, because you can only spend it once. Oil prices are back down. It got really high, but it's not being replenished at that rate. And so I wish it were. I wish it were an ongoing source of revenue. It's just not. So the conventional wisdom has been, we'll spend the rainy day fund for one-time expenditures, but not for ongoing expenses, because then it just creates a hole that you can't fill. But it's a big debate every time, and that's not a lieutenant governor and the governor and the speaker each have a say in that. But again, everybody has a voice on that. So what you're saying makes sense. And again, an annuity increase is overdue. The next step will be to get the pre-2004 retirees who were not included in that 2013 annuity increase. That'll be the next step. And then one for everybody. And again, Tim Lee is helping with this. And again, I mentioned Tim Lee a lot because he's someone that you know. He works for you. And honestly, I wish you would call him and ask him who helps him, who fights him, ask him who works with him. And he'll tell you the truth. I think he will tell you that I've been advocating for you. In fact, I know he will, because I have, and because it's true. the governor adding that to the special session call, it didn't just happen. It happened because y'all made calls. It happened because we made requests. Again, was it enough? No. But again, we're talking about several $100 million. There needs to be more. I agree. It's a matter of taking the money we have and trying to put it in the best place we can put it. And those are, again, just to be, take me out of it. If you're a politician and you run for re-election, who would want to do something that's going to raise people's costs? Nobody wants to do that. So this is not something people do for fun, and they felt like, given the choices they had, the money they had, and to put it where they could put it in. So there's more. There's another session coming, and we're looking for ways to spend the money better and to find more sources. But I hear what you're saying, and I'm not going to say I know if it was I don't. You're dealing with this. This is real money. I get it. That's why I'm here. I'm listening to you. You've got more friends than you think, but you don't have enough, and I agree with that. Yes, ma'am.
Well, just to give you an example, my cost for medical care without any medication on it or
Yes, ma'am.
anything else is going to be $10,000 this year.
And that's your cost
That's
for
myself and my husband, because
Right.
he's on my insurance. I've
Right.
already figured it out, because it's a $500 deductible for each of us,
Mhm.
which is much more than what we had last year.
right.
Plus, it's going up to $529 a month.
Premiums going up as well as the deductible. Yes, ma'am. I know.
So, I mean, I don't know what people on fixed income is going to do.
Right.
I don't know what we're gonna do with that.
That's right.
Sure. Well, I understand. Yes, ma'am.
Brian, explain, you're right, do they not like to touch the general fund? What about the general fund? They never want to touch that for some reason.
So the question is, so the general fund versus the rainy day fund, I shouldn't miss that. So Dr. Behrman was talking about the money sitting there in the coffee can. Of course, that's the rainy day fund, right? That was put in place back in the 80s. And so when oil prices are high, a portion of that money goes into the rainy day fund. It's not in the general revenue, so it can't be spent for normal circumstances. You have to have a 2/3 vote, right, to spend money out of the rainy day fund. And if we'll step back for a minute, I think we would all be in favor of that, because it's supposed to be an emergency fund or like a savings account. And so it takes a 2/3 vote to spend that rainy day fund. And there's a big debate. I got to tell you, again, I don't want to let you bore you with a whole bunch of stuff, but every session, man,
The hurricanes.
the hurricane's a big part. You're right. We had a literal rainy day that we weren't expecting, but every session there are unmet needs, and I won't bore you with this because you're dealing with real life. But we have folks who are on waiting lists to receive services. We have children with severe disabilities. We're getting them some help, but not as much as we would like to. I mean, again, I'm not going to lecture you about this, but there's a long list of unmet needs. There's money that could go to very worthy places. And just like you have to with your own money and your homes and your businesses, we have to do whatever we can and try to balance everything. And so, with that rainy day fund, again, it's supposed to be for one-time expenditures, not for ongoing expenditures. And you spend this hurricane, we don't know how many billions it's going to cost yet. But it's going to take a pretty big chunk out of the rainy day fund. And I'll say one more thing about that. Here's what we've learned from other states. The states that don't have a very healthy rainy day fund, when they go to sell bonds, when they go to borrow money, they have to pay a much higher interest rate than we do, right? Since we have a healthy rainy day fund, it's about 10% of our annual budget. The bond ratings, they say we're a safer risk. And so when we borrow money for the state or school bonds, we get a much better rate. So it actually saves the taxpayers money. But I get it. It's frustrating. Here's a need, and here's that money sitting there, and it's not being used. I hear what you're saying. But the point is that the decision's been made, and we make it every 2 years, and we work for you. But the decision's been made to save the rainy day fund for one-time expenditures. Because we don't have a healthy reserve, when a hurricane like this comes along, we don't have money. We just had a hearing last week on the State Affairs Committee, on the Education Committee, and we heard from superintendents from Houston to Rockport, from Beaumont to Rockport, and we looked at pictures of their facilities. They told us about, they haven't just lost students, they've lost teachers, and not killed, but moved away, not sure they're coming back. And so we don't know how many billions it's going to be for public ed and for transportation to fix that. But again, That's what that savings account's for. And we're listening, and I'm listening to you, and I'm just one vote. I'm advocating for you, and maybe there's some position, maybe we need to spend part of the rainy day fund, but keep most of it. But these debates are happening every day down there.
I was wondering, how much money comes from the rainy day fund for the hurricanes, like Harvey?
So we don't, it's going to be in the billions. We don't, so the question is, how much money from the rainy day fund goes to pay for Harvey? We don't know yet. They say it's going to be in the billions, but we haven't seen the final number yet. Part of it will depend on how much the feds pay, because FEMA, we're going to make FEMA pay first. Does that make sense to y'all? We're going to get our money back from the feds first before we pay. So without going into detail, there's FEMA, and then there's private insurance, and then the state comes in after that. So they tell us it's going to be billions, but we don't know exactly how much it's been.
Compare the Texas employees' health care to ours.
So the retirees or the active employees or the
Both.
Okay, thank you. So there's TRS, of course, for our active for our TRS care for our retired teachers, and there's the employee retirement system covers state employees, right? Those folks that work directly for the state, highway department, health and human services workers, and for that, as I understand it, in the TRS system, the retirees portion is paid completely, but then they've got to pay something for their spouses, but not as much. So that's my understanding. Theirs is better. Theirs is if the state employees is better. I think it's better. Is that what you're talking about?
Why aren't we on the state?
Yeah, they're separate systems. They've been that way for a long time. And actually, from the retirement benefits themselves, TRS historically performs a little better. But on the healthcare side, ERS, the retirement benefits in TRS are better. The health benefits in the employee retirement system are better. I apologize. I don't know why. They're separate systems. We had a study one time from ERS about combining them. They said it would cost a couple of $1 billion to combine them. But I'm going to tell you this. I don't know the details. Let me go back and let me try and find out, okay? Because what I've told you is all I know off the top of my head. But generally speaking, TRS retirement is better, but healthcare is not as good. Yes, ma'am.
These state employees
Yes, ma'am.
that's retired, they do not have to go to school like we do to be a teacher.
Oh, right, on the state employees, right? Like if you work for the highway department or...
Right, they don't have to go to school like we do. We spend all that money, but then their retirement, their insurance is better than that.
I think their insurance is. I think the retirement, your retirement may be a little better, but their insurance is better. You're right. And yes, some of them didn't have
Then they have IT and everything.
Okay.
We have to pay our extra for all that.
Okay, I see what you mean. And you're right, some of them didn't have to have any higher education to do what they're doing. Oh, you're right. Yes, ma'am.
Brian, you mentioned that the legislature generally is not friendly to public education.
Dr. Behrman mentioned that, but go ahead. Thank you.
Generally.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When it meets again and they have to dip into the rainy day fund to fund those public schools
Yes.
that have been demolished, destroyed, or whatever,
Yes.
how friendly are they going to be then?
Oh,
from,
yeah.
From Beaumont
Yeah,
to Rockport.
good question. She was talking, so the concern that public education is not getting a fair shake. So,
Private schools in there that were also like that.
oh yeah, so the question about the school funding. So private schools won't get any help with buildings or anything like that, but public schools will. No, I'm glad you meant the question was. Well, it depends on whether they own the facility, whether they lease it. If it's an owned facility, they get some help, not as much. If they're leasing it, they're just out of luck. But most of the schools affected are traditional public schools, obviously. I think there's a few, I guess there's maybe some charter schools affected down there too. But what they told us was, if a charter school owns the facility, because it's paid for with tax dollars, they'll qualify for some help. But a lot of charter schools lease their property, so they won't get any help. So the question was, when it's time to spend the rainy day fund, will it be taken care of? Yes. The answer to that is yes. And the finance committee is meeting about this too. That's what the rainy day fund is for. I mean, we didn't know we were going to have a literal rainy day, but yes, ma'am, they're going to be made whole. They will be made whole. They've got to be. Because these schools, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just said it's just too public.
Oh, that's right. You guys know, they set their budgets, they make plans based on the funding formulas, and now nobody planned for this. So, no, That's what the rainy day fund is for, and that's what it'll be spent for. At least that's what my bubble, if I can say that. Yeah, there'd be a pretty good outcry if that didn't happen. But thank you for asking that. Yes, ma'am.
Back to your benefit contribution.
Yes, ma'am.
You said that even though senior extension board is hospitals friendly to the mindset of the legislature. Well, that's today, that's trying to get the key words in.
Yes.
And I'm
Yes.
also concerned, I feel like the governor maybe is not looking either because we had TRS board member die in January. That person was never replaced. There was an election. And by September 1st of this year, they could have been replaced.
Yes, ma'am.
Still haven't been replaced. So it looks like probably it'll be a year before that one retiring position on the TRS board is replaced.
Wow.
That doesn't feel good.
I see what you mean. In case you couldn't hear it, she was talking, first of all, about this new appointee on the Pension Review Board is making up with defined benefit plans based on the organization. And then the concern that there's this vacancy on the TRS board for several months now, I guess. The retiree position has been filled. And I didn't know that. I will say this. There's a lot of appointments that are unfilled. Again, I don't know the details. I don't need to find out. But all across the state, there's a lot of positions that are still unfilled. The governor's catching up. So I wouldn't, honestly, I can't imagine that being an intentional thing. But let me find out about that.
A lot of good stuff going on with TRS.
Well, no, big stuff. And that retiree voice needs to be there. Honestly, I'm glad you told me because I've looked at appointments, Joanne, I didn't know about that one. Let me find out about that because those appointments do have to go through the Senate. So the governor's appointments, but I can help a little bit with that. Thank you for telling me. I did not know that. Thank you for telling me that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I had another question.
Please.
Maybe I'm a little naive, or maybe I don't quite understand. Wasn't there a rainy day fund and a general revenue fund, two
Okay.
funds? So what comes out of the general revenue?
Okay, great question. I may not have answered your question correctly. I'm sorry. No, the question is about the general revenue, then there's the rainy day fund. So, yes, ma'am. So the general revenue, that money does flow to public schools, and the money that we use to help with TRS care, that is general revenue. You're exactly right. The rainy day fund, that's the money that's over in a lockbox, or I guess you can't say lockbox, it's out of war, but that's the money that's over there. But the general revenue, that does go for TRS care, for public ed. So you're right. So the general revenue is going for this purpose, but not the rainy day fund. And thank you for, I want to make sure I said that right. Thank you for clarifying that. And I think I saw somebody else's hand. Did I? By the way, you say something?
Well, I don't want to belabor it too much. I feel kind of the same way that Blaine does.
Sure.
I feel like the state doesn't value my service. They've never invested enough in public education and never paid attention to national average. We haven't had any raises in our retirement system. You know, look, the future for me personally looks pretty bleak. You know, 5 or 10 years down the road, I'll be lucky to be living in a house. So that's what the way things are going now. So, again, and the healthcare system is really broken. It's a mess. And costs are outrageous. That's a real problem.
That's the real problem for everybody.
And nobody has the courage to do anything about that because the lobbyists are in place to stop it. And
You mean TRS care or healthcare? Well, I don't understand. You mean the healthcare system, the whole system?
The healthcare system of the country.
Right, gotcha. Go ahead.
Insurance can't keep up with it.
Right.
Our premiums, we can't keep up with the insurance problems. But that's beside, that's beside the point. Kind of get lost in what I'm saying. And I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, that's
That's not the purpose of
No,
this.
thank you.
I appreciate you being willing to talk to us about this because a lot of people, just like Lane, pretty
You bet, you bet.
and like I say, right now, having bar payments and house payments and all these things, we've got in now, what I do, but
Sure.
and like he said, the increases we're going to get, even if we get a cost of living rate, it's going to be so small that it's not of any use. It's not going to help you that much.
Compare those premiums, right?
But then, the cost of living increase in our pension, it's not going to make up for these costs that we're, next time it's going to get another ride. Try to keep that from happening, try to maintain some kind of healthcare. So I'm
You're right.
you know, I feel like, again, I feel like the state does not value my service to the children in the school district and so forth and protected. I put in a long time in the system, just like they do. You know, tough conditions, always, you know, trying to find money to do things with. And the way public education money is spent, we spend, you know, we've got our little tiny districts that, well, we've got some over here within 5 miles of each other, and they have a district superintendent and coaching staff and all these things, and that costs money, and nothing, you know, something could be done about that. We spend a lot of money on footballs, but not as much on academics.
You're right, you're right.
I'm showing you a bunch of across the board things that,
No, I hear you.
are in here as bothers
That you've seen over the years, yeah.
But again, you know, Texas has bragged about the Texas miracle and these things, and it hurts me because I don't share in that prosperity. And it looks like nobody cares whether any of the benefits go with me or not. I pay all my taxes and do everything like this I'm supposed to do. And it seems like the state doesn't value my contribution. Here, when I really need it the most,
Right.
we're getting ignored the most. Sorry to go on about that.
No, I asked you, that's okay, no, thank you. I need to hear from you. We have a dialogue, I need to hear from you.
Some people in front of worse off than I am. On the other side.
Right,
I don't know how really don't know how they're get along.
That's right. I know that, and I continue to hear from folks, and I need to. And I wonder too, again, folks that are involved in TRTA and our Smith County group staying on top of things, I can't help but wonder how many of our retirees are just now beginning to worry about what changes are about to be made. Because you know, some folks have other things, they're not involved in the organization. So I know we're going to continue to hear from folks and try to help them navigate it. And again, this isn't over. We're still looking for money and looking for the best ways to invest that.
There are other things that are wrong with the way the healthcare system is funded, and I'm sure you've heard about it. I hope something will be looked at and fix it. I don't have confidence at this point from the past history of the way it's done.
The system was put in place in 1985, and nobody years old doesn't remember that, but the healthcare system for retired teachers was put in place in 1985, and it's been sort of there's never been a dedicated funding source for it. It's been funded, but in various ways, and so that's becoming a real problem now. You're right. Instead of just scrambling for money every session, we need to find some way to have a reliable source that we know is going to be there, so we can have the money.
I have to say, the Social Security issue is something. There's no way a reasonable person cannot look at this inequity and say, well, this is not fair.
I agree.
But it just can't get done because nobody up there, nobody watching represents us.
And the scary thing is our Texas delegation gets it, but the scary thing is these guys from other states, they're okay, so I don't really care about COVID us. And it shouldn't be that way. It ought to be what's good for the country. It wouldn't even cost them anything to help it to fix us. But again, I think I'm optimistic. I'm more optimistic than I've ever been talking about the Social Security problem. And again, I'm sorry to repeat myself. I don't have a vote on that. I think, right? You know, I don't have a vote on that. But our Congress does, and Louis gets it. He's with us. And again, now that we have this chairman of Ways and Means who's from Texas who's got a bill to fix this, we may see that Social Security thing fixed. I sure hope so. Every session we pass a resolution. We all pass it unanimously. And we send it to Washington, calling on Congress, please fix this. That's all I can do. But like you, I can still. No, I bet you, but it's legitimate. Oh, thank you. It's part of what you're dealing with. I know. It's not right. It's not right. I will.
You know, the facts of the matter are that less than 5% of the people who have retired in the PRS draw any Social Security.
Right.
95% of those people don't get anything.
That's right.
It doesn't matter to them. I mean, I know they'd like for those who draw Social Security to be able to get everything they ought to be getting, but
Oh, I see. You mean those folks who have their benefits?
The thing that every one of us in this room And 95 out of 100 people in the state of Texas who are retired out of TRS, the thing that affects us is what you do up there.
Right. I
Not
see
what
what you
Louis
mean.
does or anybody else in Washington.
So even those
It's
folks
what happens
who,
in the Texas
Right.
legislature that affects us. And that's the big thing.
Right.
I mean, Social Security is a drop in the bucket compared to what we get from teacher retirement. And you all are the only ones that can help us.
that's right.
It's
That's
not the
right.
folks in Washington.
No.
Oh, we're not getting help from Texas.
No, Social Security is all
The
they,
Senate and the legislature that we're not getting help.
yeah, Social Security is all they had nothing to do with the subject. No, that's right. But that's exactly right. And did I answer that question about the general fund and the rainy day fund? Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you for that. Anybody else have questions or comments? Yes, ma'am, please.
What is the Texas legislature's plan against the school finance?
School finance.
And I don't think anybody in this room can stop or just increase the school
Right.
finance.
It's really a separate issue from school finance, right? So, cut you off. So school finance. So the question is about school finance, and as you know, it's been, the way we do it now is just not fair. It's based on local property taxes. And so, your zip code affects, a child's zip code affects how much they get. It's not supposed to be that way. Basically, most folks agree that the property tax just goes on a very good tax. And, it punishes you for working hard, for being successful, for developing property, or for opening a business. And so getting away from the property tax to some kind of a consumption-based tax would be nice because it would be broad-based, it would be low rate, everybody would pay, it would be statewide. Now, getting there from here has been hard. Now, the last time the school system was really looked at top to bottom, from a study standpoint, was, some of us here will remember Governor White and No Pass, No Play and all that stuff. Remember Ross Perot had that commission and some good, again, No Pass, No Play was a tough adjustment, but it was important, right? So some good stuff came out of it, some not so good stuff. But there hasn't been a top to bottom look at the school finance system in a long time. So, until now. So, for what it's worth, over this interim, the governor and the speaker and lieutenant governor in both houses are appointing a commission made up of school people, board members, teachers, superintendents, business people to look at the whole thing and try to come up with a better solution. Because the school finance system we have now, basically, it's based on students largely, but if you're a fast growth suburban school, or if you're a McKinney or a Lindale or a Bullard or a Lighthouse, or if you're growing fast and houses and kids moving in, then you're getting more money, right? And they're not getting rich, but they've got plenty of money. But if you're a school, an urban school, and for that matter, Tyler ISD really has a lot of, in many sense, more urban problems than it does suburban or rural problems. Or if you're one of these small rural schools, there's just no new money coming in, and transportation's going up, and food, and utilities, and stuff. So yes, the current system we have is not working. The state is spending a whole lot of money on public education, but it's not getting distributed right to the best place, it doesn't seem like. And so, it's got to be fixed. Local property taxes are not the way to do it, I don't think. It's a fair way to do it. And so that's got to be fixed. It needs to be based on the students. Your zip code should determine how much you get from the state. But as to what it looks like, we need to start from the ground up. Don't you think the system we have now is not we scrap that? I agree.
Former special education.
Yes, ma'am.
And former executive director of Health Texas.
Yes, ma'am.
Worked very closely with the
Yes. Yeah. And they have a special needs child. Okay, thank you.
Standing Republican, I disagree with Republican stance on education.
Right. No, I understand. I'm listening.
I think you guys are just really missing the boat because you don't listen to these people.
I've found if I can, and I'm glad you said that, I found if I can hear from people back home who I know who are really in the trenches, I do better when I listen to folks back home who have,
A year ago, when very chapter 41 district.
Oh, you bet.
Millions and millions and millions
Yeah.
of dollars. Everybody thinks they're a rich district. I can tell you, on the inside, they're not.
it comes in and goes out, right?
Right, everything comes in, goes back out.
All right.
So the school system's completely broken. I agree with you. The whole system needs to be from scratch.
Right. Good.
But I disagree with you. I know you support the sense of freedom.
Yes, ma'am.
I disagree with
with that whole thing, I know that Democrat or whatever, I think that's a great solution to help kids in different areas. But what they would get for a voucher is not buying them anything from private schools. So it's not a
Right.
good solution. So,
Well, I'm listening. I didn't interrupt you. Keep going, please.
If I could comment on that, I don't see how that sort of thing can not take money away from the schools. But on the other hand, I believe in the separation of church and state. If people want to educate their kids in a religious school, my tax dollars shouldn't pay for that. And my tax dollars, I want to go to the public schools and the public universities, not the religious schools.
Right.
Those, they can raise their money and have those schools, that's fine. And whoever can go, they'll go. But the Constitution, and so far, I think all of those kind of bills have been found unconstitutional that allow for the vouchers and so forth, the money going into private schools. I may be wrong, I may be one that's been configured somehow that's wrong in some states, that's true, but again, I don't see how we can put money into those schools, public money into those schools without taking away.
Right.
yeah,
Well,
about that is they don't have the same accountability.
and that's really important.
So you're sending money
Right.
to somebody that doesn't have accountability for following IEP.
Right. And so I would say on that broadly, again, and I'm going to vote for legislation that is good for the students that I represent, students here, and so that's important in this part of the state. As far as 30 states now have some form of school choice, some working better than others. It's interesting, if you look at higher education, with the GI Bill, when those folks came home from the war and ever since, we've said this, the federal government's going to help you with your higher education, and they can go to Baylor or ETBU or UT Tower or TJC. It's government money, it follows the student. And the concept is there, but K through 12 is different. I know that's sort of apples and oranges. We do also have in higher ed, we have in Texas what's called the tuition equalization grant. I'd never heard of this. So when I got elected, again, when I talked about vouchers, talking about college, when I was first elected, they came and talked to me about the tuition equalization grant. Have you ever heard of this before? It's state money, and it goes to private colleges. And I thought, well, why are we doing that? Well, the way they explained it to me at the time, the average tuition equalization grant was about $2,500, okay? So if your child is going to go to Baylor, and we give them a tuition equalization grant, it's going to cost us about $2,500 a year. But if they go into SFA, we'd be paying $75,000. We'd be paying for the whole thing $7,500 a year. So we actually save money letting those, again, colleges, letting those private schools sort of subsidize it for us. So Texas has done that for a long time. It seems to be working. So we've sort of crossed the Rubicon on government money to religious schools. But we still have to figure out what's best for K through 12. I'm not saying just because we live in college we ought to do it. But again, we do it. We have public money going to private religious schools today. We have for 8 years. Yeah, that's true. It may not be. That's a good point. It may not be good, but it's been happening for a long time. But I'm glad you said that. But still, what's going to be best for that student, right? And so, if a kid goes from Dallas ISD to Fort Worth ISD, or from Dallas ISD to another school up there, it's not affecting the students that I represent. And so I've been open in the past to a program for the inner city or for special needs kids that don't have any other options. I've said, if there's a way to help those kids that doesn't hurt our schools, take money from our schools, I'm open to it. Well, I haven't given anybody a blank check. I've told them, if you have a proposal, let me see it, and I'm going to evaluate it, and I'm going to talk to my folks and see if I think it's good for the students I represent. If it's not, I won't support it. So I'm going to listen to you. I'm not sure where we're going to line up on every bill, but I'm always going to try and listen. And I value your experience. I trust you. I'm so glad you're here. Share with us what you've learned. And I'm listening. Not just today. I'm listening to you. I want to get this right.
Average special ed students cost to educate in the public school, Kellogg School, is about $15,000 a year.
$15,000.
And so most vouchers, bills, things I looked at were proposing anywhere from $35,000 to $5,000 a year. So, okay, you're unhappy with public school, here's your $3,500, and see what you can find out there that'll give you the special ed service the public schools provide you. And they can't find it, so
Right.
they're not giving any
Right.
choice anyway.
That makes sense.
And then the private school, they don't have to follow the federal government laws about
Right.
disability rights.
And let me talk about these options and also being able to access those options available in other public schools. That's important, right? To make sure if my school doesn't have it, I can go to a school that does. If that makes sense. Dr. Behrman, did you?
Well, since I've been beating up on you pretty hard, I want to take one more punt.
All right. Go ahead, right here.
I think you need to reconsider what you say to folks like us.
Okay.
When someone asks you a question like she did about what is the plan for public education expenditure. I've watched the legislature a long time, and one thing I have observed is that when the legislature is not interested in spending any more money and not helping public schools, the thing they always do in order to save face, in order to keep from saying, well, we're not really interested in helping public education, they study.
All right. Yeah.
You're going to study the problem.
Yeah.
Well, I'm here to tell you, studying isn't going to solve the problem. And nothing ever really gets done in any of this. You mentioned the studies that have been done with Governor White on it. Nothing happened as a positive result of those about putting more money into teachers' salaries or into retirees' annuities or into public schools, increasing their income in order to help the citizens and the people of their community and the kids they educate. Nothing ever happens positive
Now,
as a result of the study.
was no pass, no play, was no pass, no play a good result, a good policy? I would say it was. It came from a commission, it came from a study. I mean, that's where it came from.
Yeah, but it didn't put one penny into the public school.
Oh, right, that one wasn't about money, but it was a study. It was a fresh look from the outside.
Ultimatum, this is what you have to do.
Right.
But it didn't help the public school standpoint of increasing any revenue.
Oh, right, no, it wasn't about revenue, it was about policy, right? I got you. No, I appreciate that. That's a good point. Yes, ma'am. We should be able to handle that, shouldn't we?
We should be I just had a concern I just want to express.
Please.
I've been in education a long time, and when I went into this business, we were in segregated school.
Segregated school.
We came together, we integrated back in the 70s, and it was successful, and we have had an only integrated situation. The other night, I was in a similar situation, and I heard the lady say, well, my friend enrolled her child in private school because she didn't want to have her child go to school with undesirable children. I have never heard anyone say that we would help with undesirable child. And what I'm seeing happen, do not distress, is a separation between the rich and the poor, between the desirable and the undesirable. It's in the legislation.
Well, thank you. It's one of those undesirables. That's really means something to me. That American dream stuff is real, right? It doesn't matter where I'm from, the color of my skin, or who my daddy was, or my religion. If I work hard and succeed and play by the rules and trust, Lord, I can succeed. That's that American, we can't see that eroded. No, thank you for saying that. It's hard to believe. It's sad that someone would say that, but it's scary that someone would think that, and they're just kind of saying what they're thinking. No, I believe I'm with you. I hear you.
And the money's going there.
Right.
And people are making decisions.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's not good. No, you're right. It's been, thank you for having me. Yes, ma'am.
Public education is what sets our nation apart.
Amen. Amen. There's no question about that. And I tell you, when folks come to us and their children are in private school or homeschool setting, that's great. Obviously, the vast majority of our children are going to be educated in public schools, right? And that's how it's always been. That's how it's always going to be. So, if anybody who's smart is going to say, we better have a strong public education system because my future lawyers and doctors and folks taking care of me and helping me and representing me are going to come through that public school system. Amen. So it's American. Oh, that's amen. Amen. That's right. That's right. Don't blame them, but I'm a product of many old public schools, K through 12, and I'm thankful for what I learned and what I gained and the sacrifices that were made for me. And I thank you for saying that we can't forget that. Yes, ma'am.
Well, that brings up the liberal professors that are dominating our higher education at this point. Where in the world were those people educated?
Yeah, that's a good point. Not in Texas, that's right.
I mean, they were, but the point is that they're older people. They've gone through this.
It does make you wonder how you grew up in America and had those ideas, because you're right.
I don't know, but I'm really disturbed about it.
I am too. Oh, boy, I am too. Y'all have been so patient. I'll take a lot of your time. But the legislature's not in session again until January 2019. We got some time to look at some of these things and listen. So I'll be back. But whether we're at a meeting or I see you around town, I'll look at some of my cards. We got email, many of us email and talk. And let us hear from you. Let me just share one thing as we close. And I may have mentioned this to you before. If I have, I apologize. This bears repeating. There's a Bible teacher named Ravi Zacharias. He's not from around here, as you can tell from anybody heard of Ravi Zacharias. You hear him on the radio sometimes. He's one of my favorites, and a very gifted man, classically trained. He goes to Harvard and Oxford and debates atheists and does really well. But he was talking some time ago, and he said something that spoke to me. In preparing to speak to you, this was on my mind. He said, in this life, we're judged by how many serve us, right? How big is my staff? How many employees do I have? How many people are on my team, right? How many serve me? In this life, we're judged by how many serve us, but in the next, we're judged by how many we serve, right? And that's what you folks do. You've done that in your careers. You do it in the community now. You're still doing it. You serve, and that means something. That's not forgotten. I take note of it. A lot of people do. It's important. So let me hear from you. I'm thankful for what you do. I'm going to listen. I suspect we're going to line up on just about everything, maybe everything, but I'm always going to listen, be respectful. I don't have it all figured out. And when I'm wrong, I want to know about it. So please let me hear from you. Regardless of how you vote or if you vote or do you support or don't support, I work for you and I want to do that job honorably and well and I want to honor the service you give. So thank you for having me. God bless you.